Oh, the green chair, green answer chair. Hey, hello everybody, good to be with you today. I'm David Burns, and today is the green chair answer day, Friday, every Friday. I answer your questions, as many as I can, that were left over from my live stream on Thursday night, and I also sometimes answer more questions. So if you want your questions answered that you leave here on my YouTube channel, what I'm going to start doing is, rather than try to answer the questions in the comment section, I'm going to try to answer them for everybody right here from the green chair. So be sure and watch every Friday the green chair answer. It's not live, but it's raw and unedited. So you got me unedited and raw, put up with all the mistakes that I would normally edit out. But today got a lot of good questions today, and I think you'll learn a lot. So the way to look at these questions is this way. Even though it's not happening to you right now, even though that's not your question right now, it would be great for you to develop a big database of these questions and the answers, because one day you will probably more than likely have to deal with whatever that question is. So there. It is good to be with you today. Thanks so much for joining me on my live stream. If you didn't get a chance to listen to my live stream last night, be sure and check it out. It's about September tips and tools that really help inspections in the month of September. Let's get right into today's questions. We have a lot of questions today, and so you're going to enjoy today's question time. Jean says, David, what is the way you store your honey supers? The best way to store honey supers is on the hive. Yeah, on the hive, the honey supers do really great. You know, leave them on there until you need to harvest them. Okay, maybe you mean after you harvest them and you got a wet super. What I usually do is I will generally freeze it in my freezer for a couple of days. That kills all the eggs of small honey beetle and wax moth. And then I will usually store it in a low humidity room. We have what we call a cool room that is kept pretty cool with low humidity, no bugs, and I don't bag them up or anything, just stack them. I kind of stack them like this so there is air going through them. That really works out well for me, Gene. Lewis says, is it okay to vacuum store frames in a plastic bag to get them over the winter? I don't ever like putting my supers or frames in a bag. And here's why. If they've had any resources like pollen, bee bread, nectar, honey in those frames, you know, that's really good food, right? And really good food kind of mildews or molds. Like, you know, I've heard people say that if a food will last for years, other than honey, that it's probably not good for you. Like, I don't know, I'm not going to tell what kind of food, but you know, there's some food that has so many preservatives in it that it will last a lifetime, and is that really good for us? Well, sometimes all of those carbohydrates and proteins and things that are on the frame, oh, my teddy bear fell over, they actually can cause mildew and mold if you bag them up. And even if you probably do the vacuum store method, suck all the air out, I don't know, here's what we ought to do, Lewis. You should try it. Don't try it with, you know, 1,000 frames, but take 5 frames and 10 frames and try it and see if they do start to mold or mildew coming out of winter in that vacuum seal. You might be onto something, man. You may have it. You may produce the next big thing in beekeeping. The vacuum bag storage for supers. You can just put your whole super in there, suck all the air out, store that empty honey super for winter. You might be the next multi-billionaire. I don't think there's that many beekeepers to make you a billionaire. Okay, David, I just received a hive full of bees with 1 large super and 2 mediums full of honey. I want to put them on my porch for the winter, which is slightly heated. Can this work out for my bees? Yeah, it can work out, and yeah, it can be a total disaster. And the way it can work out is that if your bees don't, I assume if it's heated, that it's enclosed maybe? Otherwise you're wasting a lot of heat, right? So I'm assuming that your porch is enclosed in some way. So if your bees try to get out and go somewhere because it's so warm on your porch, they're going to get stuck either on, what do you got, Visit Queen or a window or something. They're going to want to go and they'll die trying to get going. So that can be risky. I don't know what your scenario is. We really don't like heating bees up outdoors like that because it can mislead the bees to think that they can go foraging and flying, and when they get out in the cold, they get too cold to make it back to their hive. But if you want to try it, hey, you can try it and see how it goes. Keep an eye on it. And I think wind block is good, but since that porch is heated, it depends on the bees wanting to go fly on warmer days. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for you. Just removed my first ever hive, this past Saturday. I don't know if I got the queen or not. Is it too late for them to make one on their own? Well, congratulations. I used to do that. I did that for 7 or 8 years, removed bees from commercial buildings, homes, residential buildings, everything that bees get into, right? Myself and a construction friend and I traveled the Midwest, removing sometimes 2 or 3 a week out of houses and homes. And it is really fun until you get older, and then you realize this is a lot of work. We did all the construction too, or he did. He was an excellent construction worker, and he did an excellent job on our removals on putting the house back together. So we worked as a team, but that's the thing, you know, you're in somebody's house, but that's not your question. Okay, your question is, you don't know if you got your queen, will they make a new one? I don't know where on the planet you live. If you live in the US, I don't know what your climate is. I'm going to say where I live in Illinois, there's a very thin chance right now on September, what is today, the 13th, that, you know, I have drones. They're not pushing them out of the hive yet, so it would work, maybe. That's just the thing. You got to have drone congregation areas where all the drones, the male bee, hangs out in a big group of drones laughing and drinking and partying, waiting for a virgin queen to fly into their drone congregation area so 20 plus drones can mate with her, where she stores their sperm for her whole lifetime after, you know, flying back to the hives. A little bit of science information for you there, more than you probably wanted to hear, but it can work. It just depends on if you still have drones and how many drones you still have. We're getting late in the year, yeah, but you have no choice but try it. Keep your eye on it. You can always probably maybe buy a queen if you're still in doubt. My other question for you is, do you have enough bees and resources, you know, brood, stored honey, for them to make it through the winter? Yeah, well, you'll have to just use this as your own experiment, because you may want to remove more bees in the future, and you'll use this kind of experimental hive to see if you can do that more. I have a lot of robbing going on. What should I do? Oh my gosh. Hey, I brought this out. Put a robber screen on it. The robber screens are great, and because the bees want to go in here, or the robbers do, because they smell the odors of the hive. But your bees, you open this little door up here, and your bees can go in and out of here, and the robbers kind of won't figure that out, and they'll just want to go in here. So robber screens are a lifesaver in the fall when robbing starts to be like crazy. Yeah, so these are really good. These, we sell these, and they tack on to a 10 frame hive, or punch these off and make it fit on an 8 frame hive. And you can put pins on the bottom to make a mouse guard, and not a robber screen. So it has a couple of features that you can use it. I like them, and they are a lifesaver. So think about that. That's what I would do. You gotta, it's better to prevent robbing than trying to stop it. So try to stay ahead of the game will help a lot. All right, where are we at now? Oh, next page. There we go. All right. Karen, what are your thoughts on the new rocket fuel that everyone is talking about? Everyone is talking about it. I'm humored when somebody says, what do you think about this new thing that everyone is talking about? Everyone is talking about it. You know, I get it. I've heard good things about rocket fuel. What is it? AP biologics. I think it's probably what everybody says it is. I've never used it, so I can't really say yes or no. I love it, I hate it. I don't know. I've never used it. I have my own method of feeding my bees, and it's working well for me. So I'm one of these guys that changes slowly. I mean, if something is working, I get it that something could work better. I agree. But on the other hand, if something is working, there have been times in my past where I changed to do something better, and when I did, it wasn't better, it was worse for me. So I don't know, this could be, rocket fuel could be better than what you're using. Your bees may respond better. A lot of people do like it. Apparently, everyone is talking about it, which means no one's not talking about it. So it may work really good. I would say, here's what I always tell you. I don't own the corner of beekeeping knowledge. I have a lot to learn. I am a certified master beekeeper with the Eastern Apicultural Society, but I don't know it all. And I don't claim that you have to do it my way or the highway. I don't believe that at all. So I would say you should experiment. Buy some, try it, monitor your bees, see how well they like it, and if it helps them to be healthier. Yeah. All right, Rich, first year beekeeper. Started in March, been feeding. Hit me like a brick. Should I add a super to allow bees to generate more honey for winter than what's been built, or is it too late? Oh, I see. Don't know how much honey you have on board, Rich. I would say, in answer to this question, you're feeding them, you're interested in adding, what, more space? Add a super to allow the bees. Your super is going to have to be drawn out, but if it was drawn out and you fed them 2 to 1, they could possibly dry that down faster and use it for winter food. If they don't dry it down fast enough, or it turns colder faster than you thought, then what's going to happen? That's going to crystallize and look really weird. A lot of people bring me, or I wouldn't say a lot of people, everyone is bringing me, or showing me pictures of crystallized sugar water in cells, and they think it's a disease because you can see the little globules of crystallized sugar that's pretty big. It does look like a disease. And I just usually scoop it out and eat it, and I'm like, that's sugar. They're like, oh, you just ate a disease. So if you don't let it dry, the bees can't dry it down soon enough, you're not helping them. They won't eat that crystallized sugar. So where I live right now, I would not put a honey super on and ask them to fill it up. That's just where I live. For me right now, they're not going to do it. So I've already done that prior to this season that I'm in right now. John, hi Dave. What are your thoughts on the new vapor smokers? Man, you guys are asking about all the new stuff, aren't you? Everyone is talking about vapor smokers. That's not true. Oh, look at this. I got my new date ant smoker. Oh my gosh. I'm going to show it in a few videos. I compared this smoker, the date ant smoker, to a $29 smoker you can buy on Amazon that I've used for years. But I reviewed this date ant smoker. There's some good, there's some not so good about it. So you want to watch that video coming up. But I'm going to tell you something about my opinion about smokers. Again, I've already told you I'm old school, so I respect Moses Quinby that came up with the smoker idea. I hope that I got that name right. Wasn't it Moses Quinby? I get all the old timers mixed up what they invented, but I think he invented the smoker. And the date ant has been making this smoker for a long time, and it's made in the U.S. I don't get paid to say this. I bought this with my own money that cost $80 because it's the top of their line. And first time I've ever done that. I've always used the really inexpensive smokers, and when they trash, I trash them. Anyway, to answer your question about vapor, I have tried some from different companies, and so far nothing has worked for me the way that a real smoker does. And I'm not saying that I haven't tried all companies, and I would never, ever want to put down or interfere with a company's product of making a living, making a business, unless it was just horrible and I didn't want you to buy it, I'd tell you. But, you know, some of these things work. But the ones that I tried, they didn't have the impact on moving bees, especially bees that became hostile and angry, as much as a real smoker does. A real smoker, I don't know what it is, but that fuel I use, I wonder if smoker fuel can actually work better too. Because on vapor, they use usually some kind of, I don't know, is it an oil, a mineral, I think is a better word, and they burn that and it makes kind of a cool smoke, whatever. But I use burlap, and my bees, they respond really well to burlap smoke, and it is a cool, dense smoke. I always have burlap links in my description of my videos too, usually, if I remember to put it there. But I'm going to say I haven't met a vapor smoker that has made me want to bury this in the ground yet. It might, and if it does, I will, but not yet. All right, here's a good question from Andy. How many hives, oh, that's hard to read for some reason, do you suggest for the first year of beekeeping? Oh, Andy, love it, love it, love it. I suggest you buy as many hives as your budget can afford. No, I don't suggest that. You might be really rich and can afford 1,000 hives. Don't do that. Always start with 2 hives. That's my go-to answer. The reason I say that is because if you start with 1 hive and let's say they lose their queen, they have a problem raising a new queen, she gets eaten while she's mating, and they can't raise another one then, there's no young eggs or larvae, then you're pretty much screwed. So you can lose your first one only hive that you have, and you're no longer a beekeeper. But if you have 2 hives and you lose 1, you still have a hive, you're still a beekeeper. And if you have 2 hives, you can manipulate frames to strengthen one that might be weak, or if one does lose their queen and doesn't replace her, you can take eggs from your other hive, move those frames, a frame of eggs to the queenless hive, and they'll raise another queen from those eggs. The amount of versatility, the amount of options you have with 2 hives is staggering. It really is. If your budget only barely allows you to start with 1, you got to start with 1. You got to do what you can afford. 2 is better. Oh, here's my phrase though. I didn't make this up. I heard it somewhere. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. You think about that. You'll figure that out. How can you extract honey from frames that have some uncapped nectar? Oh, I see what you're saying. You have a frame that's capped over, but some isn't. Always use a refractometer. And refractometers do need to be calibrated. If you've never calibrated it, it can be off. And I have a video on how to calibrate your refractometer using extra virgin olive oil. Just go to David Burns on YouTube, David Burns refractometer calibration, and it'll come up. The video will. But you need to calibrate that. It can be 4 or 5 off. You could have 18% moisture. If you didn't calibrate it, it could say 23. So you got to calibrate it. But what I've shown in the video is I take my dauber and I'll suck out the nectar from an open cell that you're talking about, the uncapped cells, and then I will test it and see what moisture level it is, and if it's, you know, below 18 or so, 18 or below, I won't worry about it. If it's 25%, I'm not going to take that frame. I'm going to wait till they cap it off. Yep, refractometer. I think there's a link on my video about that, or on this in the description, where you can get a refractometer. $30 a refractometer. Okay, what about using a dehydrator and set it to 90 degrees and place your uncapped frames in it? Another good question. I have done that years ago when I was desperate to get more honey cells. I would try to dry out uncapped frames. It happens. I put them in a really dehydrated room that's 40% humidity. I mean, that's like dry. It'll suck the moisture out of your mouth. It'll dry your eyeballs out. And it does work in the frames. It's harder to do it once you extract it and spin it and get it in a 5-gallon bucket. It's really hard to ever get the moisture out. But if you get it while it's in the frames, I had a fan on it, you can do it. Yeah, it works. After buying a nuke, can I just stack another nuke instead of going with a 10 frame? Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know where you live on the planet. You could live in a really warm climate or a really cold climate, really windy. So your footprint is smaller, but you're building this really tall, very small footprint, so a wind can knock it over. You're going to have to put a tie-down strap and really fasten it down good as it gets taller. But you can do that. A lot of people do. I've done that before, absolutely. There's advantages and disadvantages. The biggest disadvantage is overwintering. You don't have such a wide place where the bees can cluster and have a greater distance to the outside wall that's freezing cold. So you've got a 5 frame, which is about 9 inches wide, and so there's the clusters really close to that cold 3/4 inch piece of pine. So, but you can insulate it, help them out a little bit. Yeah, you can do that though. Todd, hey David, my question is, I'm bucket feeding and I have noticed that in the evening and nights I have bees crawling around under the station. Is this normal? No, not normal, but not totally, you know, I've seen it before myself. And it's usually because the bucket feeding, the bees can get wet and they have to dry themselves off because they're sticky and they can't fly, their wings are wet. So they're trying to get everything cleaned up before they try to fly home. They can also be injured sometimes. I'm not sure how you're bucket feeding. If you're putting a bunch of sugar water in a bucket, is that what you mean? Or are you inverting a bucket upside down? But anyway, your bees can fight and stand on each other and get wet, get beat up. They could be injured. Also, I've seen where bees will be stranded in the dark. They'll be so adamant about going to the feed station, that even at sunset, they will keep doing it until it gets so dark they can't use their ocelli, the 3 eyes on top of their head. Did you know bees have 3 eyes on top of their head? Yeah, and so they can't judge light anymore, and so therefore they're just going to hang out until the next day when they can finally get an idea where the sun is so they can go home. All right, is propolis contaminated by oxalic acid vapor during treatment? Probably shouldn't use it in a tincture. Good question. Don't know, but going to say probably. Obviously, it'd be better not to have that contamination, right? So, yeah, that's probably where I'm going with that. I'm not sure. Wow, we got through those questions. That's so good. Oh, I love you guys for asking all these questions. I know it can be so helpful. And I love this green chair just sitting around on this beautiful day and talking to you. But I'm going to show you one more thing. Look what I've got. Wow. I just got my Roxanne. A new treatment for mites that everybody is raving over, like going crazy about. Everybody. Again, everybody is talking about it. Well, you're saying I'm not. I've never heard of it. But I'm not ready to try it out yet because the weather's not fitting for me to work. I'm making videos, but probably, let's see, I can do it tomorrow maybe. I'll try it tomorrow and start testing it out, see how it goes. That's going to be fun. If you didn't see the video that I made, the live stream where I talked about September tips and tools that you can use to help your inspection in the month of September, would you please watch the video? And as always, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. Let me know what kind of fun stuff is going on with you and beekeeping. Love to hear from you in the comment section. All right, check out the live stream last night. It's right over here to watch the replay. I'll see you guys over there.